Yesterday we learned about the month of Elul. This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991, and that year, this week's Torah portion, which is Akiv, fell on the last Shabbat in the month of Menachem Av. And the last Shabbat of every month, we say a special prayer to bless the next month. Right? By us this year, it's going to be next week in the month of Re'eh. But nevertheless, by the Rebbe, it was the last Shabbat of Menachem Av, and it blessed the month of Elul. And the month of Elul is a very special month. First of all, it's the last month of the solar year, if you want to call it the solar year. The Jewish months begin with the month that Passover is in. But the Jewish days begin with Tishrei. Tishrei is when the world was created, the physical world was created. So Jewish people have sort of two New Years in a way. The first New Year is Tishrei. That's when God created the world. He created man. That's Rosh Hashanah's day he created man. But Nisan, God says in the Bible, in the Torah, that Nisan is the first of the months. That's the month that God took us out of Egypt. Okay. But Elul, if you say that according to the days of the year, so Elul is the last month of this solar year, so to speak, solar year, and Nisan is the first of the moons, the solar year. So Elul is called the month of inventory. Every Jew has to make inventory, really every human being, because on Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah is when God created everybody. So he created all mankind, but it's put into the hands of the Jews. The Jews, they're the ones that have this, they celebrate the New Year's on the day that man was created. And we know exactly when the date was. So that's why it's so important to say that the world was created 5,784, in another month it's going to be 85 years ago. Right? To know that, first of all, that God created it, and that the world is a big miracle. It's an amazing miracle. And that God didn't have to create it in one day, he could have created it in one instant. But the world runs according to these amazingly deep, complicated the processes that we're learning a little bit about. So, and God really cares. That shows, okay. So Elul, we're supposed to make an accounting, because the main thing in this world, God created man last. That's the day of Rosh Hashanah, because God put the whole world in his hands. As important as the world is, and the world is of prime importance, the physical world is prime importance, much more important than heaven, those things. Those are just wisps of reality. This world contains in it real reality, even though that it's hidden a million times, but it's, so our job is to reveal it. So that's, man was put into the world in order to perfect the world. The world wasn't in as terrible state as it is now, but that was also part of the plan, that man should eat from the tree. So, so the way the world is now, it's not by accident. The world is the way now. It is exactly the way that God wants it, and we have to do exactly what God wants in order to fix it up and to justify the fact that God didn't make mistakes. So we have to. So how do we do that? The month of Elul. The month of Elul is signified by what King David said, what King Solomon said in the Song of Songs. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. God is my beloved. God loves us. And I go to him. And then he comes to us. So basically, it's two things. Number one, have I served God? Have I repaid God in any way commensurate to what I owe him? Have I acknowledged God in any way to the degree that I should? Have I shown gratitude as much as I should be grateful? So you think, now again, I want to just repeat what I said yesterday, that the month of Elul is the month of judgment, but we're supposed to judge not according to bad. Not according to bad. As I said before yesterday, let's just look at it this way. You did one good thing in your life. One good thing doesn't make any difference. You're bad. You've done a lot of big sins. Did a lot of. First of all, no matter what big sins you did, you can't do as many big sins as Yerovam ben Nevat or as the Jewish people did when they worshipped the golden calf. You could try your whole life. You can't do sins like they did. And that's like inexcusable. Yerovam and they both knew clearly what they were doing was wrong. And they did it. They worshipped the golden calf. They worshipped idolatry. They murdered. They did all the worst things. And nevertheless, God forgave them. God forgave them. Why? Because it must have been that they did one good thing. And God knows how to judge. And it could be that one good thing outweighs all the bad things. So let's make our our inventory that we make on ourselves in this month of Elul in that way, right? We're not going to get punished. You did one good thing. So, okay, all the bad you've done in the past is erased. Good. It's all erased. Now I'm just going to get punished and everything. Okay, now let's start fresh. Have you repaid God what you owe him? Have you repaid? We're talking about good. If you don't repay God, God will keep forgiving you. Don't worry. But let's be human. Let's be human, right? Let's show a sign of gratitude. And basically, God is creating us. God is enlivening us. God gives us the Torah. God gives us the world. God gives us health. Good, there's not good things in the world also, but think about the good things, right? Like we want God to think about our good things. So let's think about God's good things. But have we repaid God? Have we repaid him according to what we owe him? Huh? If you don't repay him, nothing bad's going to happen. Don't worry about it. But be a mensch. Think about what we owe him. So it says, so what do we owe him? Oh, that's what Hasidus comes to teach us. What we owe God. How we can be partners with him. So it says there's two aspects here. The ani ladodi, vadodi li. Ani ladodi means that I have to serve God regardless of my condition, because of my inspiration, to do what God says, to say what God says, to do it. Come on, God's creating me. Just do it. That's ani ladodi. Dodi li means to use the inspiration that God gives us. It's called the godly soul. This is mostly speaking about Jews. Use your godly soul. Jump out of yourself. Don't do things in a normal way. Do things jump into it. That's called a Baal Tshuva. A Baal Tshuva, he jumps out of his own self and he just takes on more than he can chew. He just does more than he can. But don't be disappointed if it doesn't work. Keep trying. But nevertheless, you have to know that your potential is much, much more than you think. Look at yourself from God's eyes, not from your eyes. What I can do, right? I can give this much of charity, give twice as much. I can say good morning to one person, say to 10 people. Care of the way you jump out. That's called and then finally, the Rebbe said, then there's a third thing. Ani ladodi vadodi li elo. Both of them together. Both of them together. Namely, that your day-to-day life becomes jumping out of your normal self. Every moment is a new moment. Every moment is a new service of the Creator, a new appreciation, a new motivation. That becomes your nature. Okay, now judge yourself. Have you done any one of these three things? That you're serving God, right? With your natural powers, with your godly powers. Have you integrated in your day-to-day life? Have you done it? So a person might say, no, but I think this is a little bit too much for me. I think this is 1 second. It's not too much for you. You're not expected to succeed. You're expected to try. So there's no commandment in the Torah to succeed. The commandment is to try. We have to try. The results are up to God. You just try. Try to do a little bit more. Try to activate your godly soul. Try to be in your in your daily activities, every moment, every hour. Try. You only succeed in doing it 1 second of the week, just thinking about it. Now try 2, try 3. You have much more potential than you think you do, right? But keep trying. We'll see. Meanwhile, you have to know what the Torah says. You have to. Okay, mizeh, from this, nosaf limud. So that's what the Rebbe is talking about. Another type of cheshbon and nefesh, the month of Elul, especially in the connection with something that the time, now in our time, which is really called for. And what is that? What is that? A gula mitit tashlim. Up to now, we've been talking about fixing myself up, fixing the world up, repaying God, connecting to God, appreciating God, being a partner with God. I should improve myself, reveal my potential. Okay, that's talking about yourself. Let's talking about the big picture, the really big picture, the real true potential that is in the world and inside of ourselves. That's the idea of bringing in the Mashiach. A geula amitit vashlema, a true, complete redemption. Dvar, like we've said many times lately, Shekav, and since it says that you're supposed to wait for Mashiach, he's supposed to come any moment, any second. And if he doesn't come, you should be tremendously disappointed. But you can't bring Mashiach by being disappointed. You have to be happy. Nevertheless, you wait impatiently and do everything possible for Mashiach to come every moment. Al Pi Kol Simanim, says the Rebbe, according to all of the signs, Harihine Ze Mashiach Bo, the Mashiach is here. Or now the word Bo is sort of ambiguous a little bit. The word Bo means he came. The word Bo means he is coming. Bo, he's coming. You can see him, there he is, he's on the way. Bo, he's coming. In any case, Mashiach is real. The Mashiach is supposed to be here right now, and he hasn't done the work that he's supposed to do. The world is in a terrible state. So, but don't worry, we have hope. Mashiach is here. Right? Mashiach is here. Look, and therefore, Oskin calls man. I remember when we were kids, a long time ago. This is when television was starting. So it was, you had the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger. The bad guy ties the woman up to the tracks or something like that, and he steals the money, and everything is bad. And he has this, this satanic smile on his face, his and all of a sudden, comes along the Lone Ranger. He comes and he says everybody. Okay, so you watch these programs, right? The Lone Ranger, and there was what was that? Hopalong Cassidy and other ones. What was it called? I don't know. Roy Rogers, because you know that it was good. It was going to end up good, right? You watch the program. Why'd you turn it on every day? Because you knew it was going to have a happy ending. There would be something happy in the world, right? You lived in a world where you knew there were bad things. You knew the newspapers where this guy kills this person, he kills his family, kills his mother, he kills himself, he kills his murder, and the all terrible world. You read the newspapers, but you open up the television. Oh, there's going to be something good. Here's the bad world. That's the world I'm living in. That's this bad guy with this. But the Lone Ranger is going to come. It's going to come. So it's worthwhile to watch the program just to see him sitting on his horse. I mean, now you look at it, it looks a little bit ridiculous, the whole thing. But the fact of the matter is that it's true. It's true. The world is terrible, and there is you want to call it a savior. A savior is sort of like a misused word, it's an idolatrous word. But the fact is that there is a person that's going to save us from our own egotism, to reveal how wonderful and beautiful every human being is already, and how precious and holy the world already is. And that this thing about everybody is sinners and we have to get it's a lie. The whole things are just terrible lies. We have to go to heaven and we have to work for heaven and you can kill yourself to go to heaven. It's a lie. It's not so. The Mashiach is gonna come, instead of riding on his horse silver, whatever it is, silver. I remember. He'll be. It says riding on a donkey. What is the white donkey? What does it mean, donkey? The word for donkey in Hebrew is chamor, and the word for physicality is the same letters, chamor, chumriut, chomer. The vav is a little bit different place. Same letters. And as the Mashiach is going to ride on the physicality of this world and direct it to the place to show how important the chomer is, the physical world. But we have to make an accounting. This is the month of accounting. Am I really doing what I could to bring Mashiach, or at least to expect Mashiach. Maimonides says a very scary thing. He says that anyone who does not believe in Mashiach and anticipate his coming, he's denying the whole Torah. That's what he says. He's not just denying Mashiach, he's denying the whole Torah. If you go to a lot of religious Jews, they'll say, yeah, Mashiach, okay, not just in outside world, in Chabad also, oh, Mashiach, he'll come. So it's supposed to be, the desire of Mashiach is not necessarily how much you scream or how big your flag is and the things. I mean, I have a flag, and I don't scream. I mean, I say, but it's an inside thing. Here the Rebbe wants to say, inside, every Jew should be broken totally that Mashiach is not coming, and happy that he knows that any second he's going to come. The Lone Ranger is going to come. He's going to save us. It's worthwhile to watch the program. Alpi, according to all the signs, Mashiach is already here. And therefore, Oskin calls him on. Therefore, we have to think and speak and act according to the Geula, as though the world was already in the state of Geula. What does it mean in Geula? The things that make you mad, they don't really make you mad. It's just, you're just reacting wrong. Nothing can make you mad. We're in Geula. The redemption is already here, right? Things that, okay, we look and we see that people are sick and people are good. So, I have as many questions, if not more than you do. But says the Rebbe, the way you think and the way you act and the way you speak will bring about good. The Zaman Imagula. Therefore, you try to attach everything with the future redemption. And like I said, if the Rebbe, it's a statement, maybe I'll even tell the story about it. If you think good, it will be good. If you think good, it will be good. And the story was told that there was a chassid that came into the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, and his son, I think, was terribly ill, dying. And he went to the doctors and he asked the Rebbe for a blessing, please. And the Rebbe said, think good and it will be good. He said, how can I think good? All the doctors said that. So he realized forget about what the doctor said. Forget about the negative things. Just think good. What do you think good? My son's going to get better. He thought positively and it worked. He thought good and it went good. I guess maybe now is the time to tell. I once read these books. There's so many books of self-improvement and self-help. So I read one of these books, these self-improvement books. And it said over there that there was a race car driver. And he was told that, really it was his hobby. He loved to drive race cars. So he was a rich man. So he bought one of these race cars, Ferrari, he paid $2 million, whatever it is. And he went around the track, went around. So they gave him advice that if you feel that your wheels lose traction and that the car goes out of control, don't look at where you're afraid you're going. Don't look at the wall that you're afraid you're going to break into. All right, I'm going that you're going to smash into. No, look at the road where you want to go. You want to go. So he said, okay, good, nice advice. But it's only usable when it happens. So sure enough, he started driving and he went 100 miles an hour, 150, 200. I don't know how fast these things go. Let's just say he got up to 300 miles an hour and suddenly, he felt that the wheels lost traction and that he lost control. Now, of course, this is fractions of a second because he's going so fast. At that second, he looked at the wall and he saw death in front of his eyes and he knew that was it. But I guess it was worthwhile to live on the edge. And suddenly, at the next second, he remembered that that's what he had to be told. That's what he had to do. He had to look where he wanted to go and not where he was afraid that he was going to go. And that's what he did. In that split second, he turned his mind back to the road, and suddenly his car rightened itself and went on the road. In other words, where you want to go, there's a much better chance you're going to go there. Or let's put it another way, where you want to go, that's where you'll go, right? If you're thinking bad things, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you're thinking of good things, then good things will happen. Says the Rebbe, think about the future redemption. That's the ultimate good. The ultimate good. The Lone Ranger is already here. But over there, what was the goal was just to get rid of the bad guys. Here is not talking about the bad guys. That's what we just finished learning. Here is talking about a new type of good is going to be revealed. That's what we said. That's Jerusalem. Remember, we just learned that in the Kuti Torah. This is Be'ekev. That's this week's Torah portion. Be'ekev, there is also the meaning. It says Ekev means heels. That's this week's Torah. We talked about that yesterday. That's referring to Ekev Bisman, the time, this time, the Ikvus of the Mashiach. It's called the heels of the Mashiach. Now, this means two things. Ikvus of the Mashiach means the heels of the Mashiach, means we're the lowest generation of all. We're on the heels. Or it means that we're right up to the Mashiach. We've caught up to him. Ubefrat Ikvus of the Mashiach. We're at the heels of the heels. We're right there. Hazman anu nimtzeim achshav. That's the time we're found now. Al derech shnei pirushim, like we said before, in Ekev, there's also the two meanings of Ekev. We said before, Ekev means the lowest, and Ekev means the highest. Right before the redemption, we said Ekev is the highest. Ekev is the final results. The pirushu ikvas the Mashiach. It says miloshen ikvayim. What does it mean when it says heels? The intention is hanemuchim biyota, the lowest. Kashem she'ekev. We said that's what Jacob. How did Jacob get his name? Yaakov, because he held on to the Ekev, to the heels of Esav. Esav, they were twins. Esav came out first, and he was holding on to his heel. And just like the heel of the foot is the lowest part of the body, Al Derech says similarly, Dara, this generation, the Ikvus of the Mashiach, of the heels of the Mashiach, who Dora Hachi Tachton, it's the lowest of all the generations, B'meshech Kol Dorot, in all of the history of Judaism, this is the lowest generation. Kasher Sorer Ba'olam, there is in the world Choshech Kaflo Mechupel, darkness which is doubled and redoubled. I mean, I imagine the Rebbe knew everything, but I don't know if he could even imagine how low this generation is. I mean, this generation is like obviously the lowest generation that's ever existed, right? She knew, like it says in the I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he said, that the Hamas, they're just like the Nazis. And I said, listen, I don't think so. I don't think so. The Nazis, may their name be blotted out forever, but there was a little bit of something to what they said. I mean, the fact is the Germans were a very advanced and a very cultured and a very productive nation. And they gave a lot of scientific information. And my father learned in university when he was, I guess, in the 20s and in the 20s and the 30s. And he said, then the textbooks were written in German. You had to know German. There was so many German, they contributed so much to the world, the Germans. So they had there was on what to base this idea that they were the superior race and everything. Okay, it didn't give them the right to burn millions of people, but of course not. But at least there was something that was there. They had what to base on, right? And so therefore they had a reason to say, listen, if we say you have to hate the Jews, so there must be something to it. Must be something to it. But these people now, the Hamas, they never did anything good. Never did, and they don't even have any plans to do anything good. No plans whatsoever. Which is basically true with Islam. All these things they say, Islam, they developed the science and they developed mathematics. If you look and see all that stuff is simply not true. Not true. But let's forget about that. Let's forget about that. Let's just think about the fact that we're great astronomers in Islam, and okay, but the Hamas absolutely nothing whatsoever. And there's Jews in the universities that they're supposed to be the most, and they side with the Hamas, with the lowest. I mean, there's nothing lower than that. The Jews that hate Jews, why? Because the Hamas are what? They're superior, they're productive, they're kind, they have a plan for good. Absolutely nothing good. It's like the lowest of the lows. And there's Jews that actually side with them. They hate Jews. So it's like things have become, destructive, self-destructive to ridiculous. I mean, it's like self-destructive. And the Jews go against Judaism. It's destructive. To side with the Hamas, that's like destroying even the Jew who's against Jews. They're destroying the destroyer. Right? And it says now we're in a world that's dark, doubled and redoubled. Like it's explained in the rabbis, all the signs which are things that are not good, which are going to come in the Ikvas of the Mashiach. This is in Sota, in the end of Sota. The Ikvas is chutzpah yazgi. There's going to be chutzpah, it says, in the end of the end, right? This is the end of the lowest of the generations that there can possibly be is now. You have the leaders of nations that side with the woke movement, right? What is it talking about? The men can be women, it's children, you can change their sex because they found them playing with a doll once in a while, so they convince them to change, do these operations that are just, totally destructive, just total destruction. And the leaders of nations, the United Nations, they're all for this stuff, right? Can there be anything lower than that? Right? And you should know that most of the Israeli government, they side with the United Nations, right? They side with the United Nations. They can't understand why we just don't dissolve, just give in, right? The whole world hates us. Let's join them. The Kai al Sofa Achris, this is talking about the lowest of the generations possible. So a person can look at what's going on now and say, listen, it's lost. The thing is lost. I mean, this is not Mashiach going to come. It's lost. Says the Rebbe, no, exactly the opposite. This was called the heels of the Mashiach. This is a sign that things can change any second, miyad mamash, before the coming of the Mashiach. Like with the Lone Ranger, right? The lady, she's tied up on the tracks and the train is coming and no one is going to run. There's guards all around, that no one could possibly save her. And she's finished, she's tied up with chains and with this. And all of a sudden, right, the Lone Ranger comes and he shoots all the guys and he stops the train and he undoes the things. Right? And that's why we watch the program, because we know it's going to get bad. It's going to get really bad. It's going to get really, and he's going to save it. Wow, it was worthwhile to watch the whole thing just for that. That's what's happening now, right? We're tied up to the tracks and the train is coming and the nations are all surrounding us and they're all gleefully, wringing their hands and licking their chops or whatever it is. And it says, and all of a sudden everything's going to change. Befran, and especially in our generation, we're talking many times that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said that all the bad things have already ended and it's already finished and we're ready for the parade for Mashiach. All we have to do is shine up the buttons. It says we've already done that. We've shined up the buttons on our uniform. But Davar Yachid, the only thing that remains to be done is one more little thing. Tenua Echad Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu Sheyotze B'nai Yisrael, a click, and all of a sudden we'll all go out of exile. Therefore, we're all screaming and crying out, Ad Masai, how long? That's what's supposed to be doing. The Rebbe is saying, okay, I'll remember that my father told me that they used to have, when they used to have the Lone Ranger and these things, they used to have, what was it also there was another one, Roy Rogers. So they did used to have television. It used to be in the movies. And they used to make like shorties. They would like, half an hour long, and the kids would pay like a nickel or a couple pennies or something like that, and they'll go into the movies and they would see, and it would be a continuation. Things would get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and worse, and they get worse. And finally, in the end, of this one series, Roy Rogers, whoever would, the hero would come and he would save everybody happy. But it ended up that the one who was doing the movies, he got tired of it. He got tired of it, and he said, okay, that's enough. So he made it that the Roy Rogers, that the enemy, that the bad guys, they tied him up in a carriage, in a wagon. They tied him up completely so he couldn't move, and they put dynamite in the wagon, and they pushed the wagon off of this high rock mountain, and there was and they pushed him off. And they saw the thing going on. All the kids were watching, and it exploded, and that was it. And the kids said, "Hey, what's that?" And they all got angry. The next week, they all went to the show, or maybe they didn't leave, and they were all screaming. They were all angry. This went on for a couple of weeks until they realized that they had to bring him back to life somehow or other. So they redid the end, that they showed that somehow or other he got out of the wagon before the thing blew up. They had to fix it up somehow or other. So it's like, we're like in the same situation. Come on, we thought Mashiach was going to come before the Holocaust. And there was the Kloisenberger Rebbe. He was in the Holocaust, and he lost 11 children and his wife, and his whole immediate family and her whole immediate family. A long, terrible story. And finally, he got out. He got out. He survived. And he even got remarried, and he had 11 more children. Amazing story. Anyway, so they asked him, what was the most disappointing thing that happened to you? Most difficult thing that happened when you were in the camps? I know you don't want to talk about it, but could you tell us the most difficult thing? He said the most difficult thing was when they freed us. That was the most difficult thing. I said, why? So listen, after all we had been through, I was sure that it was going to be Mashiach I was sure Mashiach was going to come. What did I see? The Americans. The Americans came and they freed us. It's true they took us out from bad, but they didn't reveal what I was waiting for the good. So that's what we're supposed to say, ad Mosai, how long it is, right? they tied him up in the thing and he went over the mountain and it blew up, exploded, and it just, that's it. I was waiting for Mashiach to come, and this is it. This is what happened. That's what we're supposed to say. Ad Matai, how long? The Shtei Parshos, now let's join these two together. That Akev, the name of this Torah portion, means the lowest, and Akev means any second Mashiach is going to come. We're at the heels of Mashiach. The Davka Mitzad said the specific, joining them together means that specifically now, we're in the worst of the worst times. We thought it couldn't get worse last time, and it got worse. And now we're the lowest that can possibly be, is from that is revealed the Mashiach and a Geula Amitית Shlema. Until Shenaseh, there's a joining together of both of these together. That the lowest of the lows, Geula, which we said that's the Geula, the exile. The worst of the worst, that's Geula, just by adding one little aleph, all of a sudden it flips around and becomes Geula. There'll be the third temple. Shugam Beit HaMikdash Meshulash. It'll be a third temple, and it'll contain all the other temples in it, all the other holy temples in it. Like we said, Chuta Meshulash, like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. This is a three-part, and the Jewish people, there are three, the Kohanim and the Levites and the Yisrael. Hakol Gam Beis Rishon, it'll include in it the first temple and the second temple. The first temple, it says, what God gave us from above to below. The second temple is our doing tshuva. The third temple will contain both of them. We'll constantly be receiving the blessings from God and constantly be returning to God. That's what we just finished learning about Yerushalayim in the blessing of after eating. Bayit Nitzchi, the third temple will be eternal. Geula Nitzchis, with an eternal redemption. She'ein acharei galus, and there won't be any bad after it. Like we said, Shlemos Agila, there'll be a total redemption of the essence of God in every detail of this physical world. How is it going to be? We can't even imagine. But one thing is, whatever is going to happen, it'll be so amazingly, incomprehensibly good that it'll make all the pain and suffering worthwhile. We'll feel the pain and the suffering of all the generations, and we'll realize it was worthwhile. It was good. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what's going to be. As we said last week about Nachmu, it'll be doubled and redoubled and redoubled and redoubled the good. Shleimus Achibur, the total unification of ani ladodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved. I work for God. Dodi li, and God gives to me, inspires me. Kol makom shenemar li, like it says, anytime it says li, it never moves forever. And that's going to be a new thing we can learn about Elul, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, Friday, God willing, with the, oh yeah, can we do this tomorrow? I hope so. I hope so. Well, we'll do as much as we can. Good. Let's see, 1 second. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Then we didn't get that much. Okay, we got no choice. We'll have to do it tomorrow. Oh, yes. Yeah, good. We'll do it tomorrow. Get God willing. See you. Oh, now we're going to do the Yom Yom. There we go.